want to talk to you about something I'm really excited about before we jump into the message. What I think has the potential to be one of the most meaningful ministries in the history of this church. I feel like God's in this. So there's something that I teach pastors, I've taught pastors all over the nation. How, as a leader in an organization, do you actually hear God and know when it's time for God to do something? Well, we're not going to get into the details of this, but we're just going to talk about God speaks to the leadership. He gives, when he says something, he always provides the talent and the people and the resources to do it. And when it matches up with a need in the community, whether it's the community of the church or the community around us, and all three of those circles intersect, it's a now time. It's now when God's saying do this. That's just the way God works. And I believe we're in one of those now times. We've been praying for a couple years about how we should reach the community better, how we should minister better as a community. What does it look like for us to live relationships of the mission more deeply? And I think that we know what God is leading us to do right now. And I want to we've talked to a bunch of leaders about it, but I want to talk to all of you today about that. And it really is about relationships. Nearly half of Americans report sometimes or always feeling alone or left out. And nearly half of all Americans struggle to have a meaningful in-person social interaction each day. Gen Z, all the studies can continually show is the loneliest generation in the history of America since they've been doing studies. We have impoverished relationships. Even though we are more connected than ever through our electronics, we are more disconnected and more impoverished in relationship than at any time in our history. And at work at home, we talked about this in a message a couple weeks ago. In the 70s, most meals were families sitting around the table and eating for 60 to 90 minutes. Now the average meal time is 12 minutes, and most of us are on our phones half the time. Even the family relationships are weaker than ever before. So let's go to the next one here. We really are facing a family crisis in our world today. And there's just no way we can get around that. We need to actually, as a church, take this really seriously. I mean, look at this. Marriage rates are down 31% since 2000, down 65% since 1970. And honestly, folks, the Bible from the very beginning of creation says that the marriage relationship is the most fundamental relationship of all of culture. All throughout the gospel, the marriage relationship is used as an earthly, imperfect illustration of what it means to be the gospel. We as male and female together, not individually, make up the best understanding of what the image of God is, because Genesis tells us that we as male and female are created in the image of God. We are different. Together, we are the closest representation of the image of God. And please forgive me, if you're single here, there is a rich, deep theology that I'm not going to have time to talk about on singleness. We're not putting down singleness. We're not devaluing that. We're just recognizing that biblically, the marriage relationship is the foundational relationship of healthy family and healthy society. So let's go to the next one. 40% of kids in 1970 grew up in homes with married parents. Today, it's only 18%, if we can go to the next one there, are under the age of 18 are with married parents. And here's a really interesting thing. I'm sorry, this graphic, you might have an easier time seeing it at home. But we've been addressing what's going around this. We've been addressing poverty. We've been addressing educational issues. We've been addressing increased problems in our culture in regard to health. And spending more and more on all these programs as a society and a government all the time. And what's really interesting is the Marriage Project, the Center for Human Flourishing at Harvard, and many, many, many other studies are all agreeing that we're spending a lot of money, increasing money, seeing less results, poorer results in education, poorer results in crime and poverty than we ever have, even though we're spending more money. And all the studies indicate that marriage is the fundamental cause of that. There's somewhere in the neighborhood of 80% more likelihood that you will not be impoverished, that you will do well in school, that you will have healthy relationships on an ongoing basis, not get involved in crime if you are raised in a family where both of your parents are married throughout your years of growing up. So even on the public policy standpoint, people are saying, we need to start addressing the problem because we can't just keep throwing more money at things and seeing worse results all along. And interestingly enough, the guy who's the head of the Marriage Project at University of Virginia, the largest study ever done on marriage and family in the United States, the most respected study ever done as a Christian. And he's saying, and many people are saying, the church is the place that is primarily positioned to address the marriage crisis. No one else can address it as well in our culture as the church. And yet we are doing some of the same things. This is not a bad thing. It's good that we're spending this money on children's and youth ministry. The church spends plus or minus $2 billion a year in the United States on those ministries, but 85%, I'll go to the next one, 85% of the churches spend $0 on relationship ministry. Now, we're not that bad. We do better than that. We have Thrive Counseling. We do other things. Every now and then we've done some marriage things and stuff like that. But we could be much, much stronger in this. Let's go to the next one. The family crisis has also created a faith crisis. And this has been conclusively shown in study after study after study after study. And the church has been struggling to address it. Let's go to the next one. Communio is one organization that we're going to talk more about how we're partnering with them that is addressing this coming up. And then one of their key nationwide studies showed that less than half of young adults today have continuously married parents throughout their childhood. And yet, here's the faith crisis connection. 80% of people in church grew up with continuously married parents. Now, I'm glad if you're here and you are the exception because you are trying to change your generation by making a difference in being here and stuff. But 80% of the people, and I did have one person say, well, that's probably skewed because, years ago there were more married parents, and so it's really just the older people in church that are skewing this. But the study, I actually went back and researched it more and read the 23-page detailed findings behind this, and it's even across the board, across generations. In fact, among the younger generation, it's slightly higher. It's like 82, 83%, whereas the older generations, it's 70, 75, 76, 77% of people who were raised and continuously married with continuously married parents are in church. So if we want the gospel to go forward, if we want people to have a vibrant faith, then what's happening is we're seeing it, both our passion here to reach this, but also as we assess our community. This is a ripe opportunity because unless marriages are strengthened, we will continue to have people who don't think of God as a good father. And we'll continue to lose people to the faith. Let's go to the next one. The collapse of marriage and the absence of live-in fathers leads to an increase in overall loneliness, and it has been conclusively correlated to the rise of the nuns, the people who say, I have no faith at all. I don't claim any faith at all in this. Let's go to the next one. So here's some of the nationwide study findings. I really just want you to pay attention to the top right one here. 18% of married people in the United States are reporting they are severely struggling in their marriage, and divorce is a very viable option on the table for them. 32% of people who cohabit are reporting struggling in marriage. One of the things these studies are showing conclusively, and these are not done, obviously, Harvard Human Flourishing studies at Harvard are not led by Christians, so these are not biased studies. One of the things that they are conclusively showing is that cohabiting actually increases the likelihood of dysfunction in your relationship. In fact, this study doesn't go there, but many studies go there. People who cohabit before marriage, when they get married, are far more likely to experience infidelity in the marriage and are far more likely to experience divorce than people who did not cohabit before marriage. Science is proving, in a sense, the biblical healthy way to build healthy marriages. And it's showing that up over and over again. Let's jump to the next slide. So this is, forgive the name, they accidentally mistyped it. We're, I guess, Quest Vineland here, but we're really Vineyard. They got it corrected, but they did a 10-mile radial study of us. This is just a real overview. We're going to get a much more deep one. 792,000 people in a 10-mile radius of Quest. 154,000 have children under the age of 10. 154,000 have a marriage in trouble right now. 154,000 people in a marriage in trouble. 90,000 people in a marriage in trouble with kids under the age of 10. There is a huge need for marriage ministry in our culture. Let's go to the next slide. 46% of people are single. 84,000 of the singles have children under the age of 10. Only 7%, I know that seems like a big number, 25,500, but it's only 7% of singles ever think they'll get married. That's really low. Why is it low? It's because they've never seen a healthy marriage, many of them. All they've seen is dysfunction, and they are terrified that they don't have the skills for marriage, and they don't have the hope that they can have an enduring, healthy marriage. 73,000 people within a 10-mile radius of us are cohabiting, meaning they are setting themselves up by their path to relationship for greater struggle, greater likelihood of struggle, and greater likelihood of unhappy marriages, even if they choose to get married. Let's go to the next one. So Communio, the organization we're partnered with, exists to equip churches for a gospel-based marriage and relationship ministry. Let's jump to the next slide. And they went in 2015 to try this out because they started saying, how do we solve this? So they partnered with a bunch of different people around the country. They went into Jacksonville, the 6th worst city in America for marriage, the 6th worst divorce rate in America. And they partnered with 50 churches to try to take their approach that they do, and here are some of the results. 2015, when they went in, they could only find 300 people in the entire city of 1.25 million that in the last year in 2015 had gone through a marriage enrichment course. By the time they got done with these churches, almost 60,000 people in the next 3 years had gone through marriage enrichment courses. And let's go to the next one. Divorce rate dropped to 24%. In that city alone during that time frame. Churches grew in Jacksonville an average of 23%, and giving increased an average of 28%. So they went on from that and said, okay, so here's their model. Let's do the model first. What they do and what they're going to help us do as we partner with them is help us create a full-orbed ministry around relationships. They're going to help us reach singles and teach them the skills so that they can have the confidence and even the hope that they could have a healthy marriage. They're going to help us reach marriage, people going into marriage better through marriage preparation. Premarital, we already have some strength there, but we could make it even stronger. We'll be doing marriage enrichment, and we'll be reaching out to marriages in need. Now, developing all 4 of these into robust things for us as Quest will take several years. We're going to start with 1, and we're going to continue to grow and continue to expand this. And they help us, because of their experience now for almost 10 years, work through a proven process of layering things that actually helps people who are actually the people who need the help to come to the events. So one of the things that Communio is, it was started by a Christian guy who is in big data, primarily in the political sphere, but he works with businesses as well. So if you're familiar with big data, the easiest way we understand big data is when you talk in front of Alexa and all of a sudden all your ads are what you talked about, right? Right? But it's even beyond that. Based on spending habits, they can predict which homes have infants, which homes have elementary age kids, which homes have kids who are about to graduate high school, which homes are having marriages in trouble, which homes are cohabiting, which homes they can do all this stuff through the big data. And while we will never see that level of data because of privacy laws, they have a system in place and they actually do the advertising for us. This is something we've never been able to master and figure out how to do as a church. We've run great events great things that would be great help to people in the community, but we've struggled to figure out how do we actually reach the people who need this. A few years ago, we tried it around Financial Peace University. We actually used a big data company, which we found out was actually using Communio stuff. They weren't using it well, so Communio no longer works with them. To find out we had 3,500 homes within a 33-mile radius of our church who were on the verge of bankruptcy, so we tried to use that to advertise Financial Peace University. The problem is, and the reason Communio no longer works with this organization that we were working with to help us do that, is because the organization didn't help us know how to actually do the marketing, so it went to those households and not everybody. Communio will do the marketing for us, so they actually get the messages with an 85% reliability rate to the actual houses that we're trying to target and the people who are having the things we're trying to address through these things. So that's one of the ways they help us, but also, go back one, sorry, I'm confusing because I'm not going off script. This ladder, they also help us because of 10 years of experience build this ladder with the right kinds of events sequenced in a way that produce results. Because they've done this now, not just with Jacksonville, but after Jacksonville, they went and did it with 35 to 50 churches all over the nation, rural, urban, suburban, Midwest, West, Northeast, Southeast, South. They went all over the nation, and they had, now we can go to the next slide, they had the same results, 22% average increase in the church attendance in 12 to 23 months. So now after they've tested it all over the nation and did a major pilot in a church, we actually have been accepted into an early adopters pilot program where we're actually getting a 3-year scholarship to do this for half the cost among 10 churches in Ohio. And the results of singles going through the merit, the enrichment things and the training things has resulted in 31% of them walking out saying, I am now more confident that I have the skills to have a healthy relationship and potentially have the hope of a healthy, enduring marriage. And this is phenomenal. The people who came into these processes that were at the highest risk of divorce walked out, 70% of them saying, my marriage is now stable, or I'm very satisfied and hopeful in my marriage now after going through these processes. This is the kind of results they're getting, and this is the kind of results that we should be able to produce here as well. So, how do we get there? Well, we don't have the money, even with the 50% discount, to pay for all this, because it's going to cost still about $1,300 a month for us to pay for Communio services, for all the advertising, and for all of the consulting work they do with this. And plus, we're going to have more money to do better events. And so our goal, we've talked about this with the elders, we talked about it as a staff. Our goal, because we don't have the money to do this in our core budget, is to raise enough money outside of budget to create at least a two-year runway where we can go all in on this, do it really well, do it with excellence. And even if we only achieve half the average results, this starts to pay for itself in 2 years. So we're asking for you to consider giving above your normal giving, because honestly, we started out this year, the first 2 months were really pretty good. March is usually a really good month of giving for us, and it came in $14,000 below what we thought it would. And so we're really, really tight right now financially. So I'm asking you not to give of what you would normally give to the church. In fact, I'm asking you to, maybe if you forgot to give, maybe give. But I'm asking you to dig deep and pray about sacrificially giving more, so we can create a 2-year runway to really do this, because we believe from the proven track record, from the fact that they bring to us the weaknesses that we've always had. They bring strength in those areas and allow our strengths to thrive. And the other thing I'm excited about this, one of the top feedback things many of you gave us last fall was you wanted more marriage ministry for us. A lot of times when we do outreach, we do this for outreach and we do this for people in the church. This one allows us to do the same thing to meet the need in the church as we do to meet the need in the community. And there's a synergy there for us as a church that I think is amazing. So, essentially, for us, as we prayed about this and looked at it, we went, this is really just obvious, right? It's all in on the relationships are the mission. If relationships are the mission, then why don't we go after strengthening the most fundamental relationship in the Bible and in culture and society? Why don't we go all in on that? So we're going to be more intentional. Let's go to the next one. And what this means, so what we're raising money for is twofold. we're in a digital age, and so we're still reaching people digitally. The studies continue to show they vary between 70 and 90% of people watch us online before they ever darken the doors of our church. That is our front door. And as you gave us feedback last year, and we got feedback from other people, that was one of our weaknesses. Our online sound, our online presence was not as good as it needed to be. And the studies are showing that people who used to only watch 1 or 2 weeks and then they come, but increasingly the people who come to church are watching 2 months to 2 years before they decide they're going to darken the doors of the church. And I know this to be true because we had a visitor not that long ago who said, I watched you for 2 years before I came. So we need that front door, our online door, to be really well. And the second part is to partner with community to reach people with the gospel by addressing their needs. So here's kind of the campaign breakdown. We go to the next one. We set aside already $10,000 to improve the audio. The actual cost is $20,000, so we need an extra $10,000 to make that happen. It should be done. Well, I'm not going to give. I don't know when it's going to be done because I don't know if the tariffs are causing the back orders. So I don't know how long it will be till we get the last 2 pieces of equipment. But we need that, and we need, for a 2-year runway, we need $50,000 to cover the costs of Communio and to cover the costs of the events and the things that we're going to be doing with that. And here's what I'm going to invite you, and this is my hope and my prayer. I hope we can go well beyond that $60,000, because the more we go beyond that means we just get to accelerate and do this better, faster. Because the first year is we are going to start one ladder. If we get more than 60,000 come in, we can start another one. And honestly, we're going to start with relationships and marriage enrichment. But I have a real passion, and I think many of you do too. I want to really go after the singles. We have singles all around our church. What if we actually reached them and gave them the skills so their relationships could be healthy and they could have the hope of the gospel? I don't know about you, but I know almost every single I talk to is fed up with online dating. It's just not working, right? We need to teach our younger generation really healthy relational skills. So I'm hoping we can exceed the 60,000. Right now, before we even start, we've got 17,650 either given or pledged so far. So we're well on our way to that. And I'm asking you today to consider, you can find these cards. There's some of them if you want to do it paper-wise, but you can also scan the QR code if you want to pledge. We're doing 1 to 2 year pledges. You can pick what you want, whether you want it to be a 1 year or 2 year pledge, or you can just give a big gift up front and consider giving more in the future. But my hope and my prayer is that not only will our marriages be stronger because of this, because I think they will be, I know they will be, but I hope that this place is full of our friends whose relationships are struggling. They're everywhere. And we've already got a lot of those relationships in Thrive. Probably 50% of the counseling relationships in Thrive are unchurched people struggling in their relationships. We know there's tremendous need. And I'm just submitting to you, the elders, myself, staff. I've talked to many of our core leaders about this, as many as I could, but didn't get to everyone over the last couple weeks. I think everyone's saying, this makes sense. But it's going to take us digging deep. It's going to take us responding to God, giving a little more time, giving a little more money to help us get there. Would you do that with us? If you've got questions, just grab me afterwards. I'd be happy to talk more. Come on, Wendy, let's start the message. And as she comes, let me pray. Lord, we just pray over the vision you have for us as Quest. Lord, we know that when you called Wendy and I here, you gave us a dream about bringing color to this community, and I think this is part of it. But Lord, that's me. I pray that you would confirm it in each and every one's heart here. And I pray that you would speak to each one of us as to what role you have, that we can all not own this because Ross said it or because some other people said it, but own this because you speak to us and we know it's what you want us to be a part of. So we give this to you in Jesus' name. Amen.